Just stand, take a stretch, but don't leave the film. Don't leave the All right. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of fast. I need to come, so I want y'all to step back and introduce myself. My name is Will Dawson. I'm with Black Executive and Student Training Program. Our acronym is B.E.S.T. So from now on, when I point to you, I want you to say the word B.E.S.T. Let's practice. Say it louder. Yes. All right, it's going to come in handy. Now, what we do, we are a program that supports the next generation of leaders as yourselves, and we bring Black executives and professionals to campuses such as this, and we give you guys the opportunity to learn from them, from their experiences, and also just to have a path for when you get out of school. All right, so you already met Mr. Quealy. He's going to introduce the rest of the panels, but before I go, I want you to say with me again. Say the word I said. Yes. We're going to give you your best chance to do your best when you graduate. Is that all right? Yes, sir. When I leave, I want you to remember the word. Yes. All right. So now to introduce the panel, I'm going to introduce one of FAMU's. Yes. Mr. Quealy, let's go.
So first, I'm going to introduce myself. So again, I am Timothy Quealy. I have been with Hensel Phelps for 15 years. I am a project manager. Currently, I am out at Tyndall Zone 1, which is a rebuild from the destruction from the hurricane 4 years ago. It's a $3 billion program. I am in charge of $600 million of that portion, and I manage a team of 160. I came from Orlando International Airport, where we just completed the new South Terminal, which was awesome to be a part of that team. So today I'm going to introduce each person, give them an opportunity to tell you a little bit about their background and why we brought them here. And then I'm going to dive into some questions, okay?
Good afternoon, everyone. I know it's late in the day, so I'll make my introduction pretty quick. My name is Lisa Williams. I am the owner of Cafe Doors and Hardware. So I have a door framing hardware and also specialties business. So my background's a little bit different. Prior to starting Cafe Doors, when I came out of college, I worked as management consultant for a few years. I worked for Deloitte Consultant, left Deloitte Consultant, actually started a real estate brokerage company, got bored with that, and started a door distribution company. So I've always had kind of an entrepreneurial bent. So I look forward to having a conversation with you guys about entrepreneurialism or any questions that you may have around that. And the most important thing is I am a School of Business FAMU graduate, not an engineer, but still kind of analytical. So.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Parker Wilson from Washington, D.C. Currently, I am an employee at Deloitte right now, working in the talent space, actually trying to make a transition as a consultant, but I'll talk a little bit about that later on. Started my career in construction, but made a pivot. So I'll also talk about that as well. I also own my own business that kind of is in the construction space, so I'll also mention that. And I am also an alum of the illustrious North Carolina A&M State University. Sad to add that, but no, I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Henry Boone. I'm also a graduate from FAMU, class of 2012. I am the director of Straight Line Management, a general contracting company out of Texas. We roughly have 60 employees with currently 20 projects going on throughout the U.S. A little bit about myself. I worked for Turner Construction for 10 years. Moved my way up through the company, becoming a director over Iowa and Nebraska. From there, I left Turner and moved to Lifetime Fitness to run their construction department out of Minneapolis. And then I'm originally from Tampa, Florida, so I wasn't able to deal with the cold in Minneapolis, so I moved back to Texas to work for Straight Line Management, running their operations.
All right, so one of the big reasons why we wanted to bring everyone together today is because nearly 70% of college graduates are projected to leave their first post-college job within the first year. 61% of recent college graduates want to start their own businesses, and 20% have already started a business on their own while in college. An estimated 90% of new startups fail. 50% make it to year number 5. The goal of today's panel is going to provide some perspective for personal goals along with goals you could have along your path as you start your career. We're going to start off with managing expectations. So the questions will be aligned around managing those expectations because it's so important when you get out of school. They spoke about it earlier. Ava did. She said, your expectations right now might be huge. You're going to show up, you're managing 160 people. It's not going to work that way. You're going to show up and you're going to manage you. That's where you got to start. Number 1, you. And when you're managing you, you got to show up and understand that you're a part of the team. Someone brought you in to be a part of that team and to learn where you are. Master that position, and then you're able to have an opportunity to have that next step in leadership and grow through that company. So the first question I'm going to ask is, please tell us what motivated or drove your interest to pursue a career in construction or around construction?
As I mentioned, my background's, again, it's a little bit different. I kind of fell into construction. So long story short, when I came out, I went to business school. When I came out of business school, my brother and I went together to B.E.S.T University. We graduated at the same time, and we both actually went into consulting at the same time. We both quit our jobs in consultant at the same time and started a real estate brokerage company. So my brother had a passion for real estate. I really didn't have a passion for it, and I got bored. So I wanted to try something different. And while I was running the real estate brokerage company, I was renovating houses. So I had renovated a few homes that I purchased, and I was flipping them. And I was like, okay, I kind of like this. And since I can renovate my personal home, I could probably start a general contracting company, which is a big leap. One has nothing to do with the other. I didn't know any better. So my brother had a contact at a company called Clark Construction, which is a big company in my area. I met with him. I put together a PowerPoint presentation for him, explaining to him why I wanted to become a general contractor. And he looked at my presentation, pretty much ignored it, and said, whatever you do, don't become a general contractor. He said, the best advice I can give you is to start a door distribution company. He said, there's no women-owned companies in the US. So if you start a door distribution company, you can get federal jobs, you can get local government jobs, and there's just a huge opportunity in it. The profit margins are going to be a little bit higher. So I actually literally fell into it from a conversation and a suggestion that somebody had. I was going to go in a whole different direction. Somebody gave me some advice. So I was like, well, let me just do some research behind it. And I'd say literally 3 or 4 weeks later, I started a door company. So I just literally fell into it based on being open, based on being prepared, and based on having a suggestion. So somewhat prepared, not all the way prepared, but partially prepared. So that's how I got into it.
For me, I would say it's a little bit different, given that my path, so far, in my opinion, just so untraditional. I was in construction, since I was 14, in high school. I had a mentor and who actually owns this, the B.E.S.T firm. And she introduced me to Turner. And since then, I have been doing internships and small shadow day projects in high school. That's kind of all I knew. And that's what I decided to study, in college. I wanted to go an engineering route, but I'm just not a huge fan of math at all. So for you engineering folk, I commend you. I really do. But I didn't really like math. I didn't like calculus. I hated it. So I said, I would like to do something that is management focused, but I was still kind of figuring it out. So I just studied construction in college, and that's all I did, and went for construction internships. Now looking back on that, I speak against it slightly, just because I think it's great to gain other experiences while you're in school, so that once you graduate, it can just make the process a little bit easier of knowing, what direction you want to go in. But like I said, it's still okay. So that's honestly how, I got my first job in construction, and although it was short-lived, it's just something that I've known from, the time of being 13 years old all the way up to 21 years old. when I graduated school 2 years ago. So yeah, that's a little bit about, how I got into it.
Me, when I was in high school, I did drafting all the way through my freshman through senior year. And then once I came to FAMU, we had the SESTA program. It was between architecture and the construction program. So I don't know how many of you know Mr. Muhammad. He sat me down and was like, hey, would you rather spend your time in school doing architecture, or would you rather just hit the ground running with construction? So my goal was career growth and financial. So my route went to construction. And then from there, build my development of knowledge through internships and a couple of projects that went around on campus. And then from there, went on to Turner Construction at Cincinnati.
So the next question that I have is, what was the most unexpected reality or biggest frustration from your first experience?
I think that as an entrepreneur, one of the biggest realities, and the hardest things I experienced when I first started capping doors was financial. So the startup cost for a door distribution company is really, really high. And I self-financed for the first, let's say 6-8 months or so. But you could only self-finance so much and still grow the company. I had a lot of contracts. I had hundreds, if not thousands of dollars worth of contracts, maybe millions of dollars worth of contracts, but I still couldn't get a loan. And so I was just, really, really struggling to get, to basically make ends meet the first year or so, or a couple of years of business. So the reality is that a lot of things in a textbook are not true that you read in terms of, okay, if you have good credit score, if you have a business plan, if you have this and that, you should be able to secure financing. I could not secure financing. I went to all the banks in the area. I couldn't get money. And so I had to do weird stuff like what's called like factoring to try to get money. I had to hit up friends and family to try to get financing. I just had to survive the first year. Finally, kind of an interesting story. This guy who had started this company called Honest Tea was friends with my sister. So I went over his house. I was actually extraordinarily tired. I had been working like 24 hours straight. I was having dinner at this guy's house. I ended up falling asleep at the dinner table. And so he shakes me. He's like, what's wrong? He's like, we're having dinner. Is everything okay? I was like, no, I'm just, exhausted. I'm broke. I'm exhausted. I don't know how I'm gonna make it, to next week. And so actually, this guy's super duper wealthy. I think he sold his company for like 60 million Coca-Cola. So he actually called up 3 banks while we were there. This is like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. He called up the guy who was the VP of Citibank. He called up the president of Eagle Bank and one other institution and said, hey, look, I need you to speak to Lisa tomorrow. I'm going to give you her number. She's going to call you in the morning. And so he did that. And literally within a week and a half, I had $1 million in my account. So that is one of the lessons learned. I got very fortunate, very blessed, but just the finance part and realizing how important relationships are. And sometimes like what you read is not true. And you need to find, people who can actually help you out and try to build those connections before you start a business and figure out really where the money is going to come from. And it's going to take more money than what you ever expected. What I projected was not even close to what I really needed to make the company work. So that was the biggest aha for me.
I was great. So when I think on that question, I think I just have to make a generalized statement here, and it's a little similar to what Kevin spoke about, but I think at the end of the day, the biggest lesson I've learned, or the unexpected reality, or just what I experienced overall to date, is it's not about all the time and knowledge. And oftentimes it's not even about who you know, it's who knows you. I really believe it's who knows you because, for example, I just met Kevin today. I can say I know Kevin, but Kevin doesn't know me. Now, if we have a few conversations, build a relationship, maybe down the line, Kevin can say he knows me. Or to any of you, if we have a conversation today, I can say I know you, but you don't know me. or vice versa. So I think it's a lesson I learned earlier on, that it's so important for people to know you. So you may ask, okay, what does that look like? Going the extra mile to build relationships, genuine relationships with people. Creating a plan, to say, hey, like, I really want to get to know this person. People that are sitting right next to you, like you said, like, you don't know who you're sitting next to. Like, there could be 6, 7 CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, and they can easily vouch for you because they can say, wow, I knew this person for the past 5 years, and we kept in contact. So I think that was the biggest lesson, honestly, is who knows you, because I'm telling y'all, connections, phone call, and text messages can go further than an application, can go further than a referral, can go further than anything if the vice president of the company knows you. Because that is how many people that when we're going through, I'm speaking from my own experience right now, but when someone asks, dang, why didn't I get hired? That person just knew them. It's literally that. It's that simple. It's not your qualifications. It's not how many certifications you have. It's not even how many years of experience you have. It's literally just because the VP or the hiring manager specifically knew them. So my charge is that you or we all be that person that person knows, so that we can get that opportunity. So that's what I would say.
So just to piggyback on what he was saying, I would agree with that. The first thing I would do if I was you all coming straight out of college, going into your first career, is to find you someone in leadership to be your advocate throughout your career. That person there will help you grow and excel faster than any of your peers that come out at the same level as you. Also, don't be culture shocked when you see that the person that's actually being your advocate isn't someone that looks like you. 9 times out of 10, that's what it's going to be. Someone that doesn't look like you, who can also advocate for you to get to you that next level.
Tim, is it possible to give maybe 1 or 2 minutes to get a question?
Yeah, I'm switching up right now.
Yeah, because we don't want to forget. Because,
Oh, no, I have you. Don't worry. I'm keeping time. So the next thing I'm going to be going to is to Henry, and Henry's going to be talking about first promotion, what has been critical to you get promotions and pay raises in your career. And I know you started off with Turner.
So for me, it was finding that advocate in leadership and being vocal with him. One of the things that I've noticed throughout my career is the people that don't speak up, that they want to get to the next level and be promoted, asking for follow-up questions on performance, how you're doing, you don't get to the next level. You get overlooked. You don't get that pay raise. You'll get whatever the standard is for that company. Also, just being able to document everything as well. If you're having meetings with that leader or whoever's in leadership, make sure you document the conversation. That way, when it is time for you to get your promotion, and if they're telling you that you've been doing a good job, they don't have any reason to go back and be like, well, you should have been doing X, Y, and Z. Well, in our conversations, that never was brought up. Make sure you send that follow-up email to them after those conversations. And then the last thing that I have is networking. Make sure you network with your subcontractors, network with the people that you work with, because those people are also going to be your advocates. You don't want anyone that's part of your peers that's not advocating for you. The goal of it is making sure you have advocates to get you to that next level.
So the next one we're going to touch on is comparison of firm size. So when you talk in construction, for example, there's large companies, there's medium, and then there's small, okay? So I would say that I work for a large company, Hensel Phelps, just like a Turner or a J.E. Dunn, and there's some pros and some cons that goes with that. So I'm gonna go through some of the pros and some of the cons of a larger company. So the first one I would say is when you're with that larger company, most of the time they have the ability to withstand storms, right? Big market downturns in the market, 2008, 2012, 2000. You're with a larger company, depending on the industries they're also in, whether that be government heavy or public heavy or airport transportation, utilities and services.
they're able to weather storms a little bit better. So that's a big pro with going to work for a larger company. Another good pro with working with a larger company is just the opportunity most of the time for growth. And not just growth within a certain segment, say a specific area, but the opportunity for growth to reach across the country. So a great example, I started with Hensel Phelps in 2007 in Phoenix, Arizona, which is the Western District. And I made it all the way up 5 years to project engineer level, which is mid-level management. Then an opportunity came for me to move to Miami for promotion, to move across the country because the company is larger and has opportunities to reach across and give you an opportunity somewhere different. Versus if you're working for a smaller company, it might be centralized to maybe one city, one town, one area. Then the opportunities for those promotions might be limited based on their capacity and what they do, what they build, right? Their revenues, what they bring in, what they have to pay out. So I believe that's a pro and a con when you come to small versus large. And then with the cons, I wanted to talk about your responsibilities. So when you're working with a larger company, one of the cons I feel is responsibilities are more minimized to particular areas. So for example, Orlando Airport, we had MEP teams, so a mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire team. They had a manager, superintendent, a group of office engineers who manage day-to-day activities. Then you had another group, manager, superintendent, that handled the structure, the steel, the concrete, right? And then you have finishes, a third group. They handle all the drywall, all the touchy-feely, pretty stuff at the end of the day that everyone sees. So you got these three separate entities who are working in tandem, but also individually. They don't get to touch each other's scopes. So if I'm the concrete group, I don't get to go over here and learn about finishes. If I'm the finishes group, I don't get to come over here and learn about the mechanical. To some, that could be a pro, but to me, going through it, I was a manager on the MEPF team at the Orlando Airport. I can see teammates who are in entry-level positions not be able to cross those lines and get that education and background in all those areas I just talked about. So that's why I think it's a con. If you work for a smaller company and you're working on a smaller project, you might be the only office or project engineer. So that gives you an opportunity that now you're in charge of all those scopes, right? Concrete, steel, MEP, everything. So now you get to touch it because you're with the smaller company, and now your opportunity for advancement, if you were to move to a larger company later, is much better, okay? And then the last one, which I thought was a con, probably move more often. So I think a con to, which could also be a benefit to working for a larger company, is a lot of times the opportunities are going to be large scale projects, right? If your average project size is $100 million, you're probably going to finish that job, and there's not going to be another job just like that, 100 million. Like I said, I came from a $700 million job in Orlando to running a $600 million job in Panama City. There's not 3, 4, $500 million jobs being built all the time in Orlando. That was the largest scale project in Orlando history, the Orlando Airport. And then I wanted to hand it over to Henry to see if he had any examples of working for a large versus small size company.
So as far as opportunities and growth in a large company, I would say it's more difficult to move up because they put you in silos. It's all about the person that's in front of you. So if you have someone that's been with the company for 10 years and you've been with the company for 5 years, but you may have the same experience as that person for 10 years, you can't get that bump until that person gets the next bump. And they kind of pigeonhole you in those positions. Working for a small company is basically how well you're doing. If you're doing a good job, you get moved to the next level. You don't have that same amount of competition that you have working for corporate companies. Another thing is the resources. So for a larger company, you have a lot of more people that you can reach out to for suggestions or questions, or if you run into issues. Say for instance, someone has experience on like a Facebook or a Microsoft project, you'll be able to pinpoint someone within your database to get answers or solutions on any problems that you may have. For a smaller company, you may be the person that's most senior, so you may have to be the one that go figure it out. And then also in larger companies, it's going to be a culture shock. In larger corporate companies, there's not too many people that look like us. It's going to be maybe 5 or 6 within the company or within the department. And those are going to be your resources and your main connections throughout the company. Also working for corporate companies, there's not much work-life balance. It's constant go and drive. Working for a smaller company is more family-oriented. You're able to take your time off, not have to answer the phone calls all the time when you're on vacation. Actually be able to be with your family during the Christmas and holidays, depending on the project. Corporate, they want the project done no matter what.
All right, so we're gonna move on to owning your own firm. So that's one reason that we brought you here, Lisa, because it gives us an opportunity just to see that entrepreneur side when you choose to do it on your own, start your own thing. Okay, so the first question that I had for you was, what drove you or motivated you to decide to hang your own shingle? And then what has been the greatest reward of owning your own business?
So I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I don't think I'm wired to work for anyone. So I think everyone's kind of wired a little bit differently. So I remember even when I was a kid, like 6 or 7 years old, my mom used to always say, you're never going to be able to work for anybody. And she was right. So I just don't have the personality to really effectively long-term work for anybody. So I like to be in charge. I'm a risk taker. And I think a lot of that, my personality, just my general makeup actually is what drove me to entrepreneurialism. I've worked in corporate America before. I worked at Deloitte, like I mentioned. I interned at Johnson & Johnson, worked there after college for a couple of years too. But it's just, it was always I was always agitated. I have a lot of energy. It just was difficult for me to sit behind the desk all day. And I'm just not, even in high school and college, I was the one who had to stand up all day because I'm just not wired to sit down. So I just have a lot of energy, and I think for me, entrepreneurialism is almost an expression of creativity, an expression of art to a certain extent. And that's why I think I'm a serial entrepreneur and what has driven me towards entrepreneurialism. I don't really care about, I hate to say this, I don't care about doors. I don't care about what I've done in the past. I just care about the art of entrepreneurialism. So I like the art of creative things and trying to figure out how to build better mousetraps. So whether it's doors, whether it could be, I don't know, tile, it could be anything, but it's just the art of just trying to figure it out and how to do it better than the competition is what drives me. And the second part of the question I forgot. So
That's what has been your greatest reward?
So I think for me, so the greatest reward I'm experiencing now, I've been in this business for a little over 11 years now. It's taken a while to build this better mousetrap, but I think and doors is kind of like a hard one to have chosen. I didn't realize how technical and how challenging it is. But I think the greatest reward now is actually being able to really scale a company and to see it grow and to see people, kind of what you mentioned earlier, to see people within our company being given opportunities to grow and to experience things that they, weren't able to experience even 3 or 4 years ago in my company. So, as I get older, I think just being able to really have a significant impact on other people's lives, being able to transform their lives, people who never thought that they would, see 6 figures in their lives, or, they're going to see 6 figures and much more. I can really have a financial impact on people. And I can really see, I can bring minorities into a business. I've never had minorities. So I think the reward that I'm actually experiencing now is the reward of 11 years of kind of sowing these seeds and seeing other people grow is kind of like where I'm starting to get a really kick out of what I do, more than I did in the past.
And then for Parker, I had what has been the hardest reality of owning your own business and the transition?
I think I'm gonna rephrase that. Because I don't look at being in this position as like just like a big hard reality, you know, it's something negative. It's kind of similar to what Lisa said. I think, you know, everything that Lisa has accomplished, I'm like at the beginning. So, I think for me, as I'm like rephrasing this question, you know, I'm a believer, so I feel like we were called to create, you know, as human beings. And it's one of the things that God wants us to do, like on this earth. And I'm very excited for the journey, you know, what's to come. You know, I'm 23 years old. I'm married and I have a child on the way. So being in this position to navigate my career and navigate a business from the beginning, I'm just so excited to see where it's going to be at in like the next 5-10 years and have some similar stories to what Lisa's having right now and kind of say those same things. So I just think, you know, if I could say a harsh reality or a hard reality of what I'm realizing is that it's just going to be a journey. And kind of like what I was going to say earlier is, you know, not being afraid to pivot. You know, I never thought, you know, so the business that I do, it's a drone photography and videography for actually real estate and looking to move into construction, ironically. So I never thought I'd be doing that. I bought a drone 2 years ago, $700, and I said, I'm not gonna sit on this piece of technology. I paid too much money for it. I just thought to make me some money. And that's when I started my business. And the goals that I have to expand it, you know. So I think it's just a journey of realizing, hey, like I started my career in construction and honestly hated it. I did not like it when I started off in school. You know, I love what it can do, but I wanted to be an entrepreneur in some way. I wanted to have control over what I do if I'm in construction in some capacity. And now, you know, I'm finally able to do that. So not being afraid to pivot, and now I'm in a space in my life to where I'm like, okay, I can work corporately at such a young age and grow my business and see where I can be at like in the next 10 years. So I could say, yeah, to answer that question, it would just be that it's going to be a journey. You know, I know it's not going to be easy, but I'm not going to put it on myself to say that it's going to be detrimentally hard, because there is some love that I have for this, and the love and the drive for wanting to be an entrepreneur. I want to be my own boss. You know, like I don't see myself working for the rest of my life. That is just a promise. I just don't see that. That's just not going to happen. There's a certain life that I want to live for myself and for my family, and I know there's probably a good amount of you in here that can attest to that as well, just because it's our generation. Like I said, I ain't gonna see us at the job for more than 2 years, and I promise y'all we're not gonna work until we're 45. That's just who we are. And I expect that, and I expect it from my child's generation, that he can experience that, and then moving forward, and that we can continue to breed more Black entrepreneurs, and creating generational wealth. So it's just gonna be a journey, man. Like, and it's something that I'm excited for, because it's an opportunity that was given to me, and I won't take it for granted. So yeah, that's how I would answer that.
All right, so getting to the end, we are going to do each person with just a little bit of advice. Okay, so each person just going to give a little bit of advice, best words of advice for those leaving the hill and going into, I didn't say the hill, sorry, but leaving the hill and going into the real world. Okay, so starting with you, Lisa.
So I would say kind of the best advice I can give you guys is just to understand your gifts, understand what your strengths are, understand what your weaknesses are. You know, people are always, they'll tell you over and over again, you've got to like sew up your weaknesses. There's some weaknesses that you have in this lifetime, you're not going to be able to sew up, and it's okay. And I'll give you an example. I'm an entrepreneur who's extraordinarily not detail oriented. I'm terrible with details. I'm okay with that. I've never been good with details, but what I've had to do is figure out which career paths do I take that allows me to succeed without being the most detail-oriented person in the world. So I can still be successful in life, but if I write a sentence, there's gonna be something wrong with that sentence. It's okay. But there's other things I can do, there's other strengths that I have that can augment that. So be comfortable with your strengths, make sure they're solid, you're really good with them. The stuff that you can't do, understand what's not a little bit more challenging for you. Create a team around you as you get older that augments some of those weaknesses. And also, just really focus on what you're good at and do it better than anybody else. And just focus on being better at, at what you're good at. And then the stuff you can't do, figure out how to navigate around it and how to augment it as you go. That's my suggestion, which is probably not.
That was good. Kind of similar, like we'll kind of piggyback off what I said. Do not be afraid to pivot. Like I really mean that. An opportunity that is yours is just not going to miss you. It's not. If it's for you, it's not going to miss you. Like remember that. If it's for you, it's not going to miss you. So if we didn't get that interview, if we didn't get that job, if we didn't, back then, when you didn't get that loan, whatever it is, if you didn't get it, you put it in your head that it wasn't for me and better is on the way, because that's just how it works. That is just how it works. If I didn't get into other universities, but A&T was for me. And I did a lot of things at A&T that I'm very proud of. I was an SGA, I crossed into best attorney, I became an alpha. I did a lot of many different things that awarded me these opportunities to where I am right now. If I would have went to another school, I probably wouldn't have done those same things. So the reason that you all are in this position right now, obviously, is because we're supposed to be here, but because this opportunity did not miss you. So when you go out into the world, when you do different things, don't be afraid to pivot, but understand I'm pivoting for a reason. And if this isn't for me, trust and believe that better is on the way. It's going to take time, it's going to take patience, it's not going to be easy, you're going to cry, I did. It's gonna be annoying. You're gonna say every cuss word in the book, like you're just gonna go crazy. But trust and believe when the dust settles, that opportunity is gonna be in the way and it's not gonna miss you. So I just want y'all to really, if y'all don't remember anything else, remember that, because I'm not that far off in age. I'm pretty sure somebody in here is older than me because I'm 23. So yeah.
For me, I would say come up with a career plan. Understand where you see yourself within the next 5 to 10 years, being able to move forward to making that goal. Also, don't be afraid to take opportunities, whether that's moving you out of the state, out of the country. Take the opportunities that are there for you. And then the last thing is networking. Make sure you build as many relationships as possible, because no matter where you go, that relationship that you met maybe in Denver can help you somewhere across the east.
Before we take some questions, hopefully you got a few, if not, no biggie. I'm gonna answer the same question that we asked them, just some words of advice of leaving the hill. So I heard a lot today about planning out your career. So that's definitely, as you can see, really important. I think it's just because you gotta understand, you gotta have some kind of roadmap. Don't gotta be perfect. You just gotta have something. I think one thing that's always missing when we get new hires in is that old school competitive edge to be better sometimes than the person next to you. I think that when you go into the real world, don't miss that it's no different than sometimes football, basketball, trying out for a position. You're trying to compete. Others are trying to compete as well. You gotta be ready to roll up your sleeves and do the work. I heard him say earlier in the presentation about it's very important to sell yourself. I really agree with that. But I also feel that your work will speak for itself. And a great example of that is I was running the Orlando airport, that project, that team, and I ended up winning an award. It was Orlando Business Journal, top 40 under 40. But the reason I won the award is because someone else submitted me. Orlando did, the airport did. They said, we have this young man, he's under the age of 35. He's running a $600 million job with a staff of 100 to 160. He walks into the room and they know he's the leader. He doesn't have to speak all the time. He lets his team help him be better. And then they submitted that and I ended up winning. So I say that just to say that sometimes you gotta work hard, give it some time, look around you, see where you at, right? Instead of just coming right in the door, kicking it in first day and like, hey, I should be the manager. I should be running everything. Give yourself some time when you get out, then look around, then kick the door in, is basically what I'm saying, okay? Now, I'd like to take, if anyone has any questions for anyone up here or anyone in the room, because we have alumni in the back and alumni all around. Any questions? Malik.
I got a question for all three of y'all. How do y'all balance being an entrepreneur and also how does that go?
So like out of your day, being an entrepreneur, how much time are you spending in the job, in the career, running the business, and how much time you're able to spend with the family?
Right.
Okay.
Different stages, it's different, honestly. So, I would say I have aging parents. So I spend a lot, I'm committed to spending, 3 or 4 hours with them each day, just spending time with them as they go. So my life's a little bit different now than it was, let's say, when I didn't have a team, for a few years ago. So I just put that first. I do triathlon, so I like to work out a lot. So I get up at 4 in the morning, just an hour to myself, working out, or whatever, going swimming, or going bike riding, or going running. I'm gonna do that no matter what. So those things are first for me. But when I was honestly in my 20s, I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't have work-life balance. It wasn't that important to me. I still had fun for sure, but I would say that I was also really focused on trying to figure out, like, in this lifetime, how do I, retire with some level of resources? And to be honest with you, that takes some level of commitment. So, I have people now, like a lot of younger people coming to work for me, and they're like, the first thing they ask me is about work-life balance. You may not have it working with me the first couple of years. You have to prove yourself. And so, you can have that, at some point, there's probably other companies that will give it to you. It just depends. But you have to put in, like you said, you have to put in the time, you have to put in the hours. You have to be good at what you do. You have to be fairly good at what you do when you first start. So, I don't know, it's different cycles of life. You have more time later on, and I have a lot more time later on because I put the work in, honestly, earlier on in life. So now it's a little bit easier. And if I go to work, cool. If I don't go to work in a day, it doesn't really matter at this point. So but I did put time in early in my career.
I'm still trying to figure it out. I mean, I don't know if this would be the best answer because I'm still like getting a lot of the pieces together. So a lot of things are changing in my life right now. As I'm like learning how to be a business owner. How do I do that? It's not what you see on Instagram. It's not what you see. I'm telling you, that's not what you see on IG. So I mean, I guess the one thing I can say is just have a schedule, and I'm still trying to get that down pat. But I think right now I'm just using my age to my advantage. Like when I say I'm young, like when I say we're young, like I have the body stamina to do a lot. So as I'm transitioning into a more demanding career, and now running a business and now about to be a new dad, like it's going to be a lot, but I actually have the stamina to withhold that if I'm not getting much sleep, if I'm getting up earlier, if I'm working later. I would say I think it's case by case. It depends. I know in the career that I'm going into, I'll be working from home, so that also is able to play a part into that. To where I'm able to kind of do both, but I will be doing a lot of work after work, like working from whatever 8 to 5, and then from 6 to 10, 11, I will be doing a lot of work then. Mornings, so I think it's just about scheduling. It's just kind of going with the flow. Like, hard work is very important. But going with the flow is too, to kind of see like where you're moving towards. Obviously making sure you're taking care of yourself. So, working out, y'all know that stuff, making sure you're eating right, having just kind of a balanced life. But yes, there are gonna be seasons in life where it is gonna be different. Like, this is a season that I'm stepping into where it's gonna be a lot. And there'll be a season where it ain't as much, and I can, put time into others. So I don't think the path isn't linear. There's not a step-by-step to say, hey, do this, do this, do this. I think it's just concepts, to kind of understand and say, okay, these are things that need to happen. Like, what are my non-negotiables in my life? Like, okay, what are things I need to do? I need to eat. Okay, so that's a non-negotiable. That means if I can't spend an hour on business because I have to eat, I have to do that. I'm married, I have to grow my marriage. So if that means that, again, I'm working, but I can't spend an hour on business because I have to focus on my wife as well, I have to do that. So just seasons and being okay with that. Like, if it's starting out and I'm still trying to figure it out, it's okay that I probably can't spend as much time as I'd like to growing my business. But there's gonna be a time where that's all I'm doing. So I think it's just understanding where you're at right now and what you can do. If you are graduating and you have those same desires and you're single, kill it, go for it. Like, you have the time to go put in 20 hours a day and not even feel it. If you find something that you love, do that, seriously, because you can really set yourself up. So it's just really about understanding where you are and creating that plan for you.
So first I want to start off by saying that it all depends on what level you're at within the company is going to be where you're going to be at as far as work-life balance. Starting off as a field engineer, you'll have more free time, more time to yourself, not necessarily being dependent to be on the job site full time. When you move up as a superintendent, project manager, then that's your baby. It's on you to make sure that whatever the task is gets done, whether that's weekends or late hours throughout the week. For myself, being the person that's running the operations, I have 60 people depending on me to make sure that, hey, I get a paycheck this week, that we're gonna have jobs coming up. So going out making sales, making sure that I'm getting funds in from projects, making sure that everyone is doing good on their projects, everything that they need is coming to them in their way. So as far as work-life balance, running a company or running operations, it's basically you try to get it in whenever you can.
Jordan Presley, you guys talk about competition. What are some attributes or traits that would separate people from the rest to like climb up the ladder?
Okay, so I think I'll take that one. So number one, you have to focus on you when you first start, right? So when you don't want to be a comparison, because this is what happens. Everyone is looking to their left and their right, and they're going, why are they going faster than me? Bad idea. The best idea you can do is work on bettering you, because that's the only thing you can control. It's in your circle of influence. They are not in your circle of influence. Then, as you get a little bit better at mastering what you're doing at that entry level, and you start to move up, they're going to give you an opportunity to lead someone else, supervise someone. Now, that person you're supervising is in your circle of influence. You can now influence how that person grows, what opportunities they have for advancement. You can also look across at that time to your counterparts that might be at that management level and see how are they doing and what things I can go learn from them and how can I network and get better working with them. That networking is going to help you get an edge, because you might find an opportunity with someone you can network on one project, and then you relocate to the next job, and what you learn from that person, no one on this job knows. So now you've added a little piece to your edge. One thing that's always important is taking advantage of the opportunities you're given. Everyone might not be given that opportunity. So when someone comes to you with an opportunity, hey, are you willing to go here to try this? Some people might think, well, he's trying to put me to the side. and do something that no one else wants. No, think about it the opposite way. He might be sending you to this location because he knows you're the only one that will go, and you're the only one that will go and grow at that location, and others might not have that grit to go there. So be open to know there's leaders in positions for a reason. They're there to help you guide you through your career. You're blindfolded when you first start because you can't see that far. You just can't. You can't see that far. But there's people with experience that can see that far. So when they're talking to you and giving you advice, you got to listen to them because they can see further than you can. And then the part about just having that grit and just working hard, an opportunity to be curious and learn. He brought it up on the screen during the presentation, curious. That's like the most #1 engineering term, you know, you can take with you to life if you're an engineer, right? Be curious. They want engineers because we're curious. We can problem solve. Use that to your advantage. Be curious and continue to learn, be a lifetime learner. So then you can put that in with your engineering and go to work.
Mark Hurd, I heard you say you managed over 100 to 160 employees. What are some things that you do to help ease, your job management? Because, it can be a lot of things going on at multiple times. So how do you stay like on task, with getting the job done?
Yeah, so #1 is just development. So as I said, as you go through those levels, you got to make sure you're not rushing yourself and you're getting all those little pieces that they're trying to teach you at that level. Master where you are. Because you're trying to grow so fast, we all want that money, right? You're trying to grow so fast and get that money, you're missing little pieces in the steps that you're supposed to be growing in. And then you get to that job, right? They give you a $50 million baby. That's a beautiful job to start on as a manager. And you got 10 people. You got to master managing 10 people. You got to be great at that, right? When you see yourself becoming comfortable, then ask for a little bit more. The biggest thing, once you get to the big leagues, the big jobs, you have to use your team. Point blank. There's no way to manage 160 people. It's not me. There's supervisors and supervisors and supervisors and supervisors, right? Like everyone's going towards one goal, and you're just helping steer that ship. You're just trying to make sure you leave no one behind when you're leading, right? They're following the leader. If you lead them, they're going to want to stay. If you're not leading them, they're going to leave, and you can't do all the work. Does that make sense? Any other questions?
This for the lady, I can't remember the name. I'm
Lisa.
sorry. Lisa, yes. So you said you graduated with your graduates in
Yeah, I came out of SBI, actually, worked for about 2 years up in Manhattan, and then actually ended up going to Duke and got my MBA from Duke.
Oh, I was gonna ask, did you end up getting your MBA? And if you did, how did that help you, obtain your business? Or would you still be able to get your business, with just your bachelor's degree?
I would probably still be an entrepreneur with a bachelor's degree, but the MBA really helped me out a lot, actually. So I'm a big advocate, a big fan of actually getting an MBA. I think what it did is it allowed me to think in a more structured fashion. Was one of the big things. The other big thing it did, honestly, for a lot of what I want to do, it provided a level of validation that I probably shouldn't have needed, but I did need. So it helped out in that way. And I think the third and one of the more important things is it provided a really good network. So a lot of the folks that I still stay in contact with, I still do business with, I still get suggestions with, I still interact with on a weekly, monthly basis are people that I met in business school, as well as undergrad, but also in business school. So from a networking standpoint, I met some really interesting people. And the fourth thing is it taught me a lot about, it gave me access to probably individuals I probably would never had access to, right? So, one of the guys that, I hang out with a lot, like every year, his family owns this company called B.E.S.T. Coffee. They owned Great America, like a bunch of big, huge billion-dollar companies. And so I can run things by this guy who, grew up in wealth, and I've been able to see a whole different side of life that I probably would not have had exposure to at that level. So I've met rich people, but I had never met wealthy people until I went to business school. But then I met a lot of wealthy people and a lot of wealthy families. And that's been kind of interesting in terms of perspective that I didn't have before business school.
Okay, great, thanks.
When you first started at Pencil Phelps, if you needed help with something like early on, who would you find yourself going to? Would you go to like somebody higher up than you, or would you, work with people that were at your level and try and collaboratively figure it out?
So that's a great question. So at the start, I would give yourself both options. I mean, because you're just starting, so you need to be open to communicating with people. They can't read your mind, just like the wives, like we tell the wives. We can't read your mind. You got to speak it out. So you got to go in. First, I would start with your counterpart, right? People that are in there working with you. You are obviously going to be coming to work for Hensel Phelps, right? Thank you very much. So we're coming working for Hensel Phelps. You're going to be starting off with office engineers or field engineers. You need to be working with those counterparts, right? In the field or in the office, asking those questions. We always have a lead person, a lead office engineer or a lead field engineer that's been there for a year or two, and their job is to train you. They have to train their replacement before they can go to the next level. So when they get in that review to get to the next level, we say, who did you train? I trained Tyler. I trained this person. Okay, you've trained 2 people to replace you. You may go to the next position. And then you always call a person like me. I recruited you. That's a lifetime, right? I've been with Hensel Phelps for 16 years. I've recruited over 42 people. So and those people are all the way up through project manager, project superintendent. We now got a VP. I mean, so we're family strong through Hensel Phelps all the way to the top. So you call your resources, people that you know, you network with, and make sure you do that before you get to that point where you're ready to leave, because life is tough. Okay. Any other questions?
I had one general question about starting a business. So how are things from a complying with laws and regulations standpoint when you're doing that? Like as soon as you start hiring employees, then you have to deal with payroll and taxes and giving them benefits. Or if you're selling things that are part of a building, for example, building codes, all of these things that just like more than you could possibly ever imagine, I think, when you start.
So I'll take that. So what I was talking about in terms of weaknesses, that's a weakness of mine. I don't like that. So I hate that kind of detail, that kind of compliance. So what I did is I did 2 things. I actually hired somebody who does nothing but like that stuff. So like when you deal with construction, you have a lot of documentation, a lot of compliance documents, a lot of that stuff. You have to make sure that your taxes are filed on time. You have quarterly filings, all this other stuff that I am terrible at. So what I did is I hired somebody to do that stuff that's just awful for me. And so I think but it's critical. You can't mess it up. If you mess it up, you're going to go under. You're going to get hit. Just with a huge tax bill later on. And I learned that my first company, because when I actually started my first company, I let that I tried to self-manage that. I didn't do it very effectively. So 3 or 4 years down the road, it kind of caught up with myself and my brother, and it just took a lot to untangle it. So when I started capping doors, I did it differently. One of the first positions I hired was somebody to help out with that kind of minutia that I'm not very good at. But I'm not sure if I answered your question, but it is critical. It's going to be a part of any business that you start as you start to grow. When your company is, smaller, it's just a 1-person show. It's not that big of a deal. But once you go into construction, or once you start to have, 3 or 4, whatever employees working underneath you, that stuff's important. And even maybe 2 employees with payroll, all that stuff, you have to have it set up right. And you should really focus on that when you first start a company, which is what I did right with Kathy.
So it seems like the answer is hire the people to do what you don't know how to do.
I can do it. I just can't do it great, and it frustrates me. I don't want to do it. So I would say, kind of going back to this point, you're not going to be able to do everything. No one can do everything, but you have to hire a good team to augment what you can't do. And if you can do that, that's really what you're good at, because people are great at compliance. But usually a person who has a mind that's really good at compliance is not really a visionary type person. So it's kind of different parts of the brain. really. So, and sometimes you have someone that can do all that, but that's a rarity.
I like that answer.
Anyone else?
Yeah, let me ask you. I really appreciate the planning that you have, and this is the first time that it's been ever set up for you to bring your life experience into the classroom. The one question is for Lisa, because when you are at the time whereby you have to make decision, things are very kind of rough. Has it ever crossed your mind that maybe I need to quit and do something else, or maybe I need to quit and get another a job, stable our job? And what reason why I'm asking you this now is because I have a son that is a registered nurse, and then during COVID, he refused to take COVID shot, so he said he was not going to work for the hospital. So he said, I want to have my own business. So he started insurance business, but things kind of rough. He was making good money, but things started getting rough. They have to call up for me to bail him out.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit. I was telling him, you need to go find a real job. But I don't know if it's the right thing for me to be saying to him. That's why I want to ask you.
That's a really, really good question. And one of the things I don't want to do is, and I felt like I used to do this to a certain extent, I don't want to sugarcoat entrepreneurialism, because I think a lot of people do. And I can tell you, like, I was doing really, and I'm not saying this to brag, but I was doing very, very well in consulting. I was, 25 years in the field, 25 years old in the 90s, making $170,000 a year. I was doing very, very well in consulting. And I chose a path from pointing to making $170,000 a year and making, I think the first year when I started my real estate company, maybe like 40,000, which is a huge jump. And I struggled a lot for years. I'm not going to pretend, like, even with Cafe Doors, I struggled a lot. There was times where obviously my brother had to pay my mortgage. My parents had to chip in. I struggled a lot. And so it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. And I wouldn't even say it became easier financially until maybe year 5 or 6 for me, where I wasn't struggling as much. And I think even in the past couple of years is when it's become pretty good, actually, let's say. So there's not as much of a struggle. I'm not struggling financially anymore. But I did struggle a lot. And there's times where I felt like quit it. And I'm going to kind of take that back to HP a little bit. So HP is actually my biggest client. So one of my biggest clients, HP and Gildan. And I actually, year 7 of having Cafe Doors, I became very disillusioned. I was about to quit. I was like, why am I doing all this? Because I'm struggling so hard. I'm tired of always being, just not making the kind of money I want to make. And I was like, and I don't even like the people who I employed, who I hired. I couldn't take it anymore. I hated the culture of my company. I didn't want to go into the office. And this is just being probably a little bit too honest. But I walked in, and there's people that I didn't want to interact with. And I went to this guy named Brad Lewis, who actually works at Hensel Phelps. And this other guy named Fish, they both went to FAMU. And I was like, look, guys, I am irritated. I hate the culture of my company. And it's a company I created. I can't do this anymore. And so Brad actually had to speak to this person that works at HP who does like organizational design. This woman named Suzanne. I was like, Suzanne, can you come into my company? I don't I'm just tired of this. And so she came in, did an evaluation of my company, sat in, met with a lot of my employees, and came back and wrote up this pretty thick report, which kind of validated a lot of what I already knew. She's like, you basically have a cultural problem here, and you have people who are not super motivated, which is kind of what I knew too. And it was hard getting the right people when you first started the company. So I decided to just change everything. I changed the way I thought. I changed the people. I pretty much just fired almost all my employees and started from scratch, like 7 years ago. Because I was like, I want to be in an environment of people that are like-minded people who are driven, who have the same principles, the same values that I have. And I'm willing to throw everything away, to start all over again, to start fresh, to spend the money to hire the right people and get the right people here that I want to say hello to every morning. I want to see their faces every morning. So I started everything from scratch. Like I'd say about 4 4 or 5 years ago. I started almost all over again. So I kept maybe about 8 or 9 employees. The rest of them are gone. And I replaced like almost like 20 employees. And so now it made all the difference. And so now I can see the financial returns are tremendously better. My motivation is higher. I'm inspired by the people that work with me. I am more inspired now than I was 7 years ago. I was emotionally dead. But a lot of it has been, like I said, it's been a cycle. It's a roller coaster. You have your ups and your downs. But a lot of it has to change. A lot of it had to change with me. I had to change my mind. I had to really be willing to throw it all away and start all over again and change my perspective on what's important to me and not compromising as it relates to the type of people that I want to work with and the type of culture I want to have and the type of environment that I want to walk into every day. So I would say, yeah, you're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have to, but a lot of that is actually controlling your mind and staying true to what's important to you and your value systems and not giving in. So I don't know if
Yeah,
so
thank
that's-
you.
yeah.
All right. No, that was awesome, Lisa, and I appreciate it. So just like to thank the panelists for taking some time. Thank Chris Hightower for all he's done. Try something different, try something new this year. So we just wanted to bring some people in that from the industry and give you guys an opportunity to ask.